Hey, pastor friends, McKay here with Cross-Tethered Preaching in our online sermon studio, Preach 360. Most of us don't want people just taking notes of our sermons. We want them to experience real, deep spiritual change. They come alive to the wonder, the beauty, and the transforming power of God's grace in Jesus. The problem is we learned to prepare sermons like lectures, lots of biblical information, but not much real-life connection. And here's the simple solution. Build a relevance bridge. That's it. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it in this demo. I'm going to show you how to connect your sermon to the real lives of real people from the very beginning of the message so that they can't wait to hear this sermon. So if you're ready, let's dive into the demo. Here you'll see the interface of the web app. I'm not going to give you all the background to it, except to say, this is set up to show you how to do the relevance bridge. That's where we are in the introduction. You'll notice here that we do have, I'm going to collapse this up at the side, give us more room. The roadmap will take us from the foundation pouring aspect of the sermon to the building of the structure of the sermon, then to the sealing of the cracks of the sermon. It's kind of a 3-block model. But here you'll see pre-lectio intro. This is the sermon introduction, actually. This is all the pre-study that we're doing, getting ready to build the sermon in this part right here. But for us now, we have done our expository maps, we've done our exegesis guide, and we are ready to start the sermon. And I've finished this sermon already. It is for a group of older believers for their church retreat. And the sermon manuscript is here already. I have the exegesis guide up, and here is kind of where it happens, where we're guided to the sermon building process through this panel here. But by the way, just in case, here at this button, you can access your expository maps, which will outline the passage for you in either verse by verse PPGR or thematic PPGR frameworks. You can go to your notes panel. You can go to the outline of the sermon, which at the end, it'll outline it for you. So it's kind of like a pulpit copy of everything that you've done, really easy to read and to access without having to have the entire manuscript with you. But you're welcome to if you want. At the very end, we'll optimize the sermon, where you'll have suggestions on how to actually make targeted improvements in your message so it's totally ready to preach on Sunday. But again, for now, relevance bridge. This takes place in the introduction, which we do before the sermon reading. And there is a method of the madness, but again, different video. So a relevance bridge, what we're going to do is simply connect the context of the original passage, whether it's the author's context or the recipient's context. We're going to ask, why did they need this passage? Or what is it that caused this text to be written? What grace did they need? That's the first question. What grace did they need for their struggle, for their sin, for their challenge, whatever it is? Then we ask, how do we struggle with the same thing? How is our need for grace the same as the original author or recipients of the text? And we simply build a bridge between this need for grace and our need for grace, and then we're going to present an opportunity for what this message actually can do in the lives of the listeners. And we do this right from the get-go, and it sets up a message people can't wait to hear. Okay, so the prelectio here, we're doing Psalm 13. And the text for today's message is Psalm 13. You just said that. A text that is both hard and hopeful. Both hard and hopeful. While we don't know the exact or precise circumstance that caused David to write this psalm, he certainly wasn't sitting in a quiet, peaceful study reflecting on theoretical theology. He likely was on the run in very real physical danger, possibly hiding in caves. The throne he was promised felt like a cruel joke, and the God who anointed him felt painfully absent. That's where we're going to our exegesis guide. We've done this exegesis study, a deep dive into the text, and an overview. There are keywords, and we can go into more depth with these and studying them. But here's where I want to show you context. And if we go down more deeply, you'll see that the entire text is mapped expositorily according to the principle, problem, gospel, response framework. We have principle exegesis, we have problem exegesis, and on and on and on. It also will give you expository summary and cultural analysis of how a biblical worldview is different than other worldviews. And this, of course, it'll cite sources for where we've gotten our study as well. Or you can do all this on your own, but it will create this guide for you, which comes from the best commentaries available that have been curated for us. So with the context right here, we're taking especially the historical context and to understand how we can begin to build a bridge. What was David's context? We're not sure exactly, but we know his emotional context. He was exhausted, isolated, and pushed to his absolute breaking point emotionally at the proverbial end of his rope. Now we're going to start building the bridge from his context to our context. But you don't have to be an ancient king running for your life to know what the emotions were he was feeling. Because most of us remember being a young child when the crack of thunder shook the house and the power went out, and in an instant, your familiar safe room becomes a place of absolute darkness and disorientation. And the most desperate, urgent question rises in your mind: how long will I be left in the dark? That's the question David was asking. He asks it 3 times. How long, O Lord? How long, O Lord? How long, O Lord, will I have to endure this? And we've all been there. In fact, we could say that we know exactly what it feels like, not only as a child, but when the lights go out, whether through a heartbreaking loss of a loved one or loss of financial security, a frightening health diagnosis, the ache of prodigal children, a season of chronic loneliness, trying to tap into that older congregation's experience and make just a few ideas come to the surface about what this is going to bring up that we're going to be able to apply grace to. So in those moments of disorientation, it's so easy to feel like a child in the dark, or like David in the cave, wondering if God has stepped out of the room and wondering how long the night will last. So here we're back to bridge, really landing this to where we're going to feel not only the pain, but the hopefulness. Remember, it's hard but hopeful. We're building the relevance bridge because at the end of this song, it starts with this complaint, it goes to this petition, but ends in praise as the grammatical literary context of the passage. In the darkness, we assume God has left us alone, but what if just the opposite is true? What if the darkness is designed to help us remember that we're not alone and that the Lord cares more than we imagine? Because what if, in not seeing anything else, we could see Him? And what if in that atmosphere of fear, what if that's exactly what grows the strongest faith to trust in the unfailing love of the Lord? And then we're going to simply say, this is the journey God invites us on today. We're inviting them into this opportunity for deep spiritual change. So with that opportunity, let's lean in with expectation and listen to David's honest cry in the dark together. And that's how we would simply start the message with this relevance bridge. We're going to state the text, we're going to build a bridge, have an anchor illustration introduced in this, then have an opportunity for this change and invite people to listen. So that's the relevance bridge. That's how you get the sermon started between the original recipients and modern day listeners. And you bridge this and you go back and forth throughout the message. Hope that helps. Thanks for joining me for this demo. More information, preach360.com. Love to see you soon.